My name is Satoshi Ikeuchi, a professor of religion and global security at the RCAST of the University of Tokyo, and also founding chair of the RUS, RCAST Open Laboratory for Emergence Strategies, RUS. This is mantra, RUS. This is our newly established think tank, not new. Now, only 3 years from our establishment in 2020, even under COVID-19 lockdowns, shutdowns. Now, today, this is a very, very memorable first event after COVID. We hope the in-person event. Under COVID restriction, we have been continuing our research activities online, mainly online. But now, finally, Japanese government has eased the restriction of the international movement of people. So a lot of people, scholars, researchers are coming back to Japan finally in November, December. So today, this is the resumption of RCAST security seminar, workshop, webinar series. Actually, RCAST security seminar was launched in 2017, and some of us have participated in it. And this was really established flagship framework in our RCAST and our security studies. And but of course, under COVID, it was not possible to continue. But today we restart this framework of RCAST security seminar. So Ms. Okawa-san, who is from RCAST, Secretariat, so international division. So she will every now and then take photos, and so to announce we are again online, so in-person meeting. And then today, yes, we have 2 roundtables in one, workshop. In the morning session, we have a team of experts from IGSDA, Institute of Global Security and Defense Studies in Abu Dhabi and in Cairo, mainly experts and officers from, is it okay? Egyptian Army? But they are globally operating their consulting and also analysis activities, and mainly most of them they came from Abu Dhabi, and this is the first part, and the main speaker is Dr. Major General, retired Major General of Egyptian Army, Dr. Ghoneim, Senior Strategist and Chairman of the Institute of Global Security and Defense Affairs. And he is originally Egyptian military officer trained in Russian doctrine. So he is a multi-faceted person, and so he had many things to present. But today I asked him mainly talk about his recent analysis circulating among Egyptian military establishment about the Russian aggression on Ukraine and assessment on it based on their internal thinking, their internal doctrine. During and after his presentation, Mr. Mohammed Saeed, cybersecurity expert of IGSDA, will make some short presentation about cybersecurity or cyber war aspects of this Russian-Ukraine war. So that's the first part. And the second part in the afternoon is mainly organized and presided over by our assistant professor, Dr. Ryo Hinata Yamaguchi, who has established his research study group on Indo-Pacific transport security, and Dr. Ramon is part of it, and I really thank you for your assistance to Dr. Will. And in the afternoon seminar, afternoon part, we have also another distinguished guest, Dr. Jagannath Panda, who is flying several times each year over the globe, making presentation about Indo-Pacific affairs. He will arrive in the afternoon, who is now head of the Stockholm Center for South Asian and Indo-Pacific Affairs of the Institute for Security and Development Policy, ISDP, with which RCAST has established a formal cooperation agreement last year. So this event will give this new cooperation framework in a first attempt to make this more concrete one. So today is a long day. So but we start with the presentation of the Russian-Ukraine affairs by Dr. Saidone.
Thank you, my dear friend. So if you like to keep it, or you can turn it off. It's up to you. Okay, happy to be with you, and thank you very much, my dear colleagues, dear friends from Egyptian Embassy for coming. Thanks for everybody is here. I'm sorry for my friends, they start cooking at 3 a.m., seriously. But we didn't know that it will take time like that, so it will be a bit late. They should be here by 10 a.m., but I'm sorry about that, it's my fault. So, this is slide, This slide is not amongst my presentation, but because I discussed with Satoshi yesterday when I met somebody, he asked me about the principles of war. Principles are everywhere. Look at your left hand. Is the Soviet Union and Russian Federation still. Even the countries which still, around Russian Federation. United States, they have this, and almost NATO are the same. But I will tell you a surprise. We are a Russian doctrine, Egypt, right? But we changed it, we amended, we improved our principles since 1970. You can imagine that. Since 1970, we changed it. So in Russian federations, you don't have what so-called surprise. But how can you have initiative, which is here, without surprise, right? So we had surprise, and strategic deception and surprise of October War is well known, right? I don't say we are better, we learn it from them, but you have to manage, you have to improve yourself. Because it's not only according to your enemy, but it became something like basics. And to have initiative which is here, you have to have the rest of the principles. If you don't have the rest of the principles, you will never reach initiative. I believe that Russia used only 3 principles in this war, which is fighting in depth when they deployed forces in Kiev. Initiative itself, they try to hold the initiative in their hands from the beginning, attacking forces and obedience. obedience in NATO, not United States, they have decentralization. And this is what Ukraine used, by the way. That's why, after less than 1 month, which is the first phase of combat, after preparedness phase, these three principles Russia has lost, which is obedience, fighting in depth, and initiative. And until now, they don't have the initiative. I want to just to tell you about this to just continue with me, and then I will go to the first one, Illusive. By the way, there is an American book by someone really I like him, Trevor Dubai, he's an American colonel. The name of the book is Illusive Victory. And he wanted to say in his book about the 4 wars with Israel, especially October War, that it's elusive victory. We don't know who won. That's why I think it's very applicable when I talk about Russian-Ukrainian war. And the main reason that no one of them could catch the point of decisiveness. And that's why I'll talk about it. Before I start, there is something. I try, Satoshi knows that I try my best to do something different. I see the world as triangle of domination, which really a very good tool to the United States. And China tried to use that, even Russia. Everyone in his own way. So we see Russia, China, and USA, the 3 powers. And this red, they are pro-Chinese, pro-Russian more. So they could be a pin in the neck to the United States in several regions, including the backyard of USA. And we have the blue one, which is doing the same job to the United States against China and Russia, right? Japan, I believe, Japan and South Korea are not the same, but Taiwan is pain in the neck. Okay, so I think the United States started to think, we have 2 castles of industry in this world, mainly 2 castles. One of them is in Europe, second one in East Asia, not all of Asia, in East Asia. These 2 castles will never be operating well without energy. So that's why Middle East, especially Gulf, is very important. That's why OPEC Plus is a naughty boy. To be against the tools of the United States to dominate the industries, to dominate, to use the dollars even as well, and to make benefit to the dollars. So OPEC Plus now is used again in that, and that's why there is no OPEC trying to be against. So this red triangle, which I'm talking about, they are thinking about that. All of them, the 3. Other countries, they are in the galaxy of this more. Not participating much, but participating for sure, but not acting that much like the 3 countries. That's why I made the symbol of OPEC Plus, by the way. It's very important in this issue. Okay, how Russia thinks, how I see Russia thinks. If I give a name to the United States strategy, it's liberal hegemony, as I think Mersheimer called it this way, when the defense attaché in Abu Dhabi told me, no, we don't have this. But anyway, if I gave it to China, I called it common destiny of the mankind. This is the motto which they repeat. And now they start to do something with like surveys in Arabic to know what do you think, what do you understand about common destiny. Because one of my lectures with them, I told them, I talk always about challenges. So one of the main challenges of your values, goals, even title of strategic, it's like New World Order. I told them that. So if you ask any diplomat even, not all of them, easy to them to know this expression, right? If I talk about Russia, By the way, I called also the United States the strategist of no strategy, of wrong strategies in random region. I called China superiority before rivalry. I called Russia opportunistic street fighter. Because I was always receiving questions from where Russia gets its own, how can I say, money, its own power. So seizing the opportunity in several places. I will not talk much about this. So I believe in something. How he thinks, how he implement. They have 2015 strategy, you know that. And it should be amended according to the Constitution in late 2022. He didn't. And by the way, when he did it in 2015, I found that he started to adopt it since 2012. Right? He likes to be late, he likes to make it like secret. I don't know, but I think. So I saw this, that some geostrategically, some locations he implemented provocation. Some others he implement competition, and I think they are in these regions. This is what I can think. And really, we discussed that with my team, actually, about that. Divide. They care about dividing Europe, for sure. I think so. Opportunities. I believe that our region is not the first priority, but it's opportunity. That's why it's a region of opportunistic street fighter. I think so. Alternative. The defense attaché of France, my dear friend, Stéphane Dellievre, he told me if we have two main threats in this world, it's terrorism and Wagner. Because they start to replace our influence in specific regions, mainly North Africa and some others which we have. Like in Mali, everybody knows about that. I believe that main objectives in the Middle East, I think, counter-terrorism, strategic partnerships, military influence, expand Russian economy, attract investment from Gulf states. If you notice that, I think it's matching the previous one, provoking opportunities. This one, to me, is very important. They care much as tool and way of approach with military existence. Like in Syria, it was in Afghanistan before, and they sign how to continue forever if possible. And I will ask you a question. To not waste your time, I will answer it. The relation between Turkey and Egypt, I think, this is my original opinion, to Russia. Militarily, the most cohesive shores in East Mediterranean is Turkey and Egypt. They are the most powerful. We have the biggest navy forces in the region, yes, but both of them very powerful. So I call them the two jaws of the mouth, two jaws. If anybody go through them, they bite if they are together. If anybody go through them, if he is in safe, like partner, ally, or wherever, so he is in safe. If he is not in safe, so I think it will be a big problem that they will pass. Russia thinks Egypt and Turkey should never be agreeing together. Should never. Why? Turkey is NATO member, Egypt is Mediterranean dialogue. We don't approve much for some reason. It's not the time to talk about that. But I think they think this way. Okay. Israel, for them, I noticed something, maybe I'm wrong. China and Russia, okay? If I compare them with the United States concerning their probe. So China never condemned Israel. They condemned the United States in terms of Palestinian cause. But USA, okay, concerning Taiwan is something else. It's direct, right? Because it's the one. Russia is the same. So they need good relation with them, but they use them as a tool against the United States. As I mean, Israel especially. They need the research, they need their influence, they need the power as well. In containment policy, United States, they fight for their allies because of offshore balancing strategy. Not because they are good friends. Russia, they make like containment against enemies without making reconciliation among them, but they can manage. China, no. Dialogue must be there. Be good friends to manage my containment policy. I think so. Now I had the war. I believe, goals for them. I think, what they want, they declared. I mean, the Russians. But I believe they needed something more specific. I think Putin felt that he is losing his position. I always say that Putin, every country will use nuclear weapon in case of direct threat against the country, the national security of the country. I think Putin is thinking to use a nuclear weapon, and he has the right, by the way, to use tactical nuclear weapon independently, personally, right? By himself. If it's threatening him, not national security. So the main goal, I think, that he wants to have the coherency of the nation. He is very afraid of dissolving of the nation because Caesarean Russia, Soviet Union, Federal Russia, what is the next step? I think so. Second, colorful revolutions, especially from, do you remember Azerbaijan? Ukraine was the main source, so he doesn't want that. Positively, that was negatively. Positively, he believed, I think, that his improvement is based on size of the country and sources. Like, Japan never thinks this way, by the way. I don't say this is good, this is bad, but no. You think you have your human resources and you use them your own way, how to manage and improve. No, he doesn't think this way. Human power, I don't think it's very important to him, even he would like to increase, but he cares more about lands of wealth. So that's one of the reasons, I think. But to have not Ukraine not to be NATO, I think when he started, he was very sure that NATO countries will increase after his actions. Ukraine, I believe, they want to be a country with Western values, under the Western umbrella, has coherent country, restoring all the lands. I think so. NATO, I think, and by the way, how can he do that? He must continue aid of the Western and to stay fighting on the land. That's why principle morale is very important to Ukrainian. They fight more with morale, I think, principle. I think so. Impose diplomatic moves to embarrass Putin more internationally, put him in a shape this way, and this is by NATO for sure. Launch focused media. I felt something, this is my own opinion. When I was in Poland in March, I visited Poland especially, and I went to the borders of Ukraine and Belarus. I noticed something, that American British media wanted to put all of us all over the world, never to think about anything except the war. That's why if you discuss anything together, even about family, it ends with war of Ukraine. And this in a shape to embarrass and to put the Russian forces in a very bad situation and leadership, and to support the morale. By the way, some people, they don't know the difference between Ukraine, Croatia, and Corona. Seriously, they never heard about that. And Ukrainian defense at sea, I was telling him that, just to tell him how much he became more important and well known to everybody, even by details of cities. And I believe they do, the phases. So Russia started the phase with all the preparedness. They were deploying forces, strengthening forces. But I noticed something with the United States especially ISW, Institute for War Studies, South War. They try to uncover, to disclose what they expected from Russia to do. Just to put him, in a position. I have to change. This, by the way, make him very awkward to any commander. We understand what you do. You will do this. You will attack tomorrow. No, you attack different. And then he will say, no, I will not attack. I will not attack. This is very important, by the way. I noticed that during this preparatory phase. First phase, he's trying to make Blitzkrieg rich. Why? He believed this. I think one of the main reasons why he didn't use all the principles, he was overconfident of himself, of his force, and everybody knows that. And that's why this type of wars are not workable in this case, because it needs very coherent and strong plan. And that was the expectation, maybe how to do this way, and it was very close to what he did, and it was published that time, and he did that. But when we go to the second phase, I think if I go to the first phase again, it was from 24th of February until 7th of April. He was taking the land using, not surprise, because everything was clear, using the initiative, deploying the forces. Here's something very important. He lost the principle of concentration of forces. During my meeting with diplomat community in Abu Dhabi, so one of them, he said, oh my God, where he concentrate his main effort. Usually have main effort, auxiliary effort, reserve, committed forces from behind, and never to be the same in size of the forces. What he did, that really, he made like something balanced, and he was sure it will finish like this. Because he wanted to collapse the regime, the leadership, and that's done for him. And he fought in depth, as I mentioned. He obedience, do what I told you, don't hesitate. And something happened here in this phase. His commandship, the leaders. Why generals? I think 11 generals have been killed. Why? You know why? Usually you have to teach your soldiers, young officers, junior officers, how to make decisions, especially when you are independent and you train for that. No, the Russian, they didn't do that much. They don't trust their officers. So they have to send sometimes with cutting the command and control by NATO, by Ukraine, whoever, to send the generals forward positions to tell them, and then it was easy hunted through ambushes, mainly, right? Logistics were destroyed because of long distance logistics, and he was not prepared. And by the way, he tried, to improve this, but really he couldn't. That's why in second phase, he did something different. We call it tactical workshops and logistics. And we use that in October War. That if you have battalion, they have their own logistics with them. We call them logistic tails, to be with them. Especially medivac, medical evacuation. It's very important. Weapons and so on. So he started to do that. In second phase, he did something astonishing. I don't say Putin, I think it was by Gerasimov. And notice something, Gerasimov is not mentioned much. The one always claimed he is Shwego. But Gerasimov, because he needs him to continue. And he keeps Shwego, I think, to be the wall to be hit always by people who are criticizing. So what he did, he made like 40 by 40 kilometer small battle theater to attract Ukrainian forces inside, but he didn't close it. And he started to strike them because he was looking for what? The American and NATO aids. It was not easy to target them. It was easy in the beginning, but it was not easy later because you start to see deception plans, camouflage, some procedures with electronic warfare, We know that very much how to make this kind of camouflage. So he said the best way to hunt them when they are approaching on routes of approach, okay, to go inside these 40, and he succeeded. He succeeded really in second phase in that. But what was the problem? That the remaining in Donbass was 70 by 70 kilometers. No enough forces to cover it to do the same. This is number one. And it was clearly in July, late June. Second, he didn't consider something, that he continued with the same mistake, to spread his forces again in Kharkiv and in Kherson. Why he cares about Kherson? Because have you heard about expression security zone or covering zone? This expression is to protect a very vital area, which is Crimea, right? So if you have it as security zone, even if what you call it, north or east of the river, so because if Crimea is taken from him, it's a very big political defeat, not military defeat for him. The true military defeat, that Donbass collapse, and he never concentrated enough on Donbass, his forces. That was the biggest mistake again in second phase. See the difference between first phase and second phase. In this phase, he withdrew, we call it a strategic withdrawal. It was a bit organized, but they left a lot of weapons, by the way. In phase 3, it became really much different. Notice something. Okay, phases of war is like that. Not phases, let me shapes. It's attack, and then stop and counter, and then defend, and then withdraw, and then collapse. He is now in the phase of withdrawing before collapsing, right? And I think NATO was thinking, and the United States, about this, how to convert from, but look at the very critical point here, from defense by Ukrainian to counter-attack without giving them offensive or attacking weapons. Why? If they give the Ukrainian attacking weapons, so two things will happen after defeat, because maybe Donbass will collapse. The first one, which is not the worst, but maybe he will use a nuclear weapon. It's not the worst. The second one, which is the worst, United States, I believe, is collapse of Russia. Why? 200 ethnics, 21 republics, they don't like each other, right? Even they are jealous from each other. So it will be a very good opportunity for China, I think, if I'm not wrong, to seize the opportunity of this region through their ethnics. The United States doesn't want that. And I think Putin, even he is against collapse and dividing of the country, but okay, I remember his word, if no Russia, there is no world. I think it's not nuclear weapon, it's collapse of Russia. If no Putin, it's collapse of Russia. Meat, enjoy, it's collapse of Russia. So this will be more sour to you if I collapse. Better, even worse than victory by Russia, right? So I think he thinks it's this way. That's why they started to think how to make it. Why Donbass, if it fails, will be military defeat? Envelopment. They will make like cutting, besieging, cutting between Donbass, part of Zaporozhye and Kherson, and cutting between Donbass and the remaining of Luhansk in the north. And then done. They will flee, collapse. And in this case, he will lose one, geostrategically, which is not less important than Crimea. Donetsk and Luhansk, even the parts which he took in 2014. I think this is the goal without increasing the weapons. They think now how to do that. This is what I'm thinking about. By end of this, they strike the bridge, Kerch Bridge. Yeah, it's icon, but it's also important because it means that they are caring, concentrating much about Crimea. But to me, it's also something else. Something I noticed with Putin, from my readings, from my friends from NATO, they tell me actually, thanks for them sometimes, what? He was sometimes in conflict with his military leaders. That's why he was giving orders to them. To me, not the military leaders, the junior leaders. Do this. He insisted to concentrate in Kherson for the last moment. But Srovo came, no. And finally he did it. I think so, if I'm not wrong. He insisted to deploy forces from the north to Kherson. And now, but he is doing what? He does not concentrate. This is the problem. Always go for defense more than attack. And he did the same. When he started to withdraw from Kherson, is to build up the security zone in front of Crimea, and at the same time to distribute forces, not to concentrate in Donbass for a big attack. That's why I think indecisiveness, it happened for 3 reasons. One of them by Russia, second one by Ukraine, third one by NATO. As I told you, by NATO, it's very clear not to give more, attacking weapons, but it's not the goal to make it indecisive. The goal, as I told you, is these 2 things: nuclear weapon or not to divide the country. Ukraine, because you don't have enough power to decide. I'm telling you in brief, Russian, because of their mistakes, especially leadership, logistics, so they couldn't make the decisiveness. They couldn't implement all the principles of war. I think so. So what is the alternative? It's related to the victory definition. Strategic definition of victory is different from tactical definition, which we call it even victorious decisiveness. Victorious decisiveness. This is military expression of victory, or tactical, but strategic, military political, it has some other definition. It's how to undermine your will to submit to my will, even without war. Right? So usually in war, we start with military definition of war, victorious decisiveness. And if it's not successful, we start to beaten, How by all of them? Russia is beaten on what? The resistance until winter, until end of winter. Resistance of Europe and resistance of Ukraine. That's why they use artillery and missile shells, drone shells against electrical power. Just to push the civilians, to push the commanders, stop, we are suffering. Even, but you forgot something. Your own forces as Russian, because you are attackers, you don't have the energy to make them unsafe. So that's why they are dying now. Because experience of war in winter, it tells a specific thing. Attacker, if he is from outside the country, he is loser in winter. Defender is winner. And even if the attacker from the own country like Ukraine, he has more opportunities to win, even if he doesn't have energy. And he knows it. That's why he tried. And he doesn't care about his soldiers, but they are dying to fight with them. So, but he started to bet on their will and their morale, resistance, but it didn't work. Ukrainian, based on their will and tactics. And they did something. In my paper, I talked about evaluation of war, of performance of both. The Ukrainians, they suffer shortage of non-commissioned officers. So as I learned from different sources, even Ukrainian defense attaché, they start to do what? Retired officers like me, if he is below lieutenant colonel, he works sometimes as non-commissioned officer. Above, whatever the job to support. And conscripted soldiers, they send them to UK and Poland, I think, for training, and they make rotation one by one. In Russia, no, they list their experts the good forces in the beginning, most of them. And that's why when he make what we call it mobilization needs long time for training new forces. They need a lot of logistics, a lot of procedures, and it's not adopted that well. So in these four, what about NATO? NATO and the United States, they bid on what? They bid on not collapse of Soviet Union, Russian Federation, collapse of Putin. Big difference. Big difference. Collapse of Putin. By whom? By people around him. If even any dictator comes after him. Because they will have the opportunity to make decisions in a better way in terms of US perspective or NATO perspective. So they bet on collapse of Putin. This is the point he made. That's why they work much on his reputation, they work much on elites, how to support them to be more protesting, and really they start. By the way, there is something they call it military bloggers, and as we call it electronic flyers by him, and they start giving reasons, changing the reasons of defeats to victory. And it was, by the way, transmitted to our experts in Arab region, like, oh, we withdraw because it's a part of deception. So now he make deception 4 times. I think last deception will be in Moscow in this case, when we withdraw to Moscow. So now these military bloggers, they started to change. They started to condemn the leaders because he became ashamed. Remember what he did in the beginning? He said, if anyone explore or announce any secrets about the war or anything, he means anything against morale, he will be sentenced, I think 10 years to 25 years. Now he's not doing that. He's not doing that because it became stronger against him. And US, I think, succeeding with it. I think so, if I'm not wrong. Implication on the Middle East. It's big from my point of view. By the way, now I am updating what will be going on in the winter, and I promise my dear friend that it will be ready concrete by end of March. You will have it, or last week of March. It will be the update, the winter, as a 5th phase, maybe, or extension of 4th phase. Okay. Turkey, Israel, and Iran. I was very lucky when Professor Kyuchi asked me, and I think you will join me in my different interview, that 3 weeks before the war, to talk about the role of Turkey. And it was really smart by you, honestly. Nobody talked about this from all my networks. And it was the time, because in the beginning, Turkey was ignored to be mediator, especially by Russia. But it proved that it will be the one. And it could achieve a lot. And like now, their issue with Sweden, Kurz F-16, F-35, the joint ventures with the United States, even with Russia, like to be the hub of the gas to the Russian and Europe, they are not very happy with that. Even to convince Qatar with the influence, the long-time influence from Turkey, or relation, let me say, Turkey and Qatar, right, to convince them to sign contract, and now they start to sign with Germany. The problem, you need long-term, right? Israel, the gas for them start to work. Even Egypt, by the way, right? So, and they signed several agreements with EU, and Egypt was at the same time. It was faster than before. And Turkey needs Israel in that to be through Turkey, by the way. So bring gas from Russia to me to Europe, I'm fine, I'm Turkey. Bring gas from Israel and Egypt to Europe, I'm fine with that. That's why relations with these two countries started even earlier. I don't say they expected the war will happen, but I think in their decision-making procedures, it was one of the scenarios. That's why Erdogan, I believe, is a very smart person, how to have very good relations. And my dear friend, Tamer Mamdouh, he was in the Egyptian embassy here. He was talking to me about that before the war. Anyway, Iran for sure. Now they give weapons and they take weapons from Russia. And it was, I think it's also very good in GCPOA for them, it's a good opportunity for them to give them better position. This is what I'm thinking. I try to just shorten time. Russian procurement in terms of defense, like if you check in Gulf region, before the war, the reputation of Russian defense industries was not very good, especially air defense, which they are very good in that, right? And now this bad reputation really increased. So it's for all of them. That's why I think one of the thing UAE and KSA tried to do together to use OPEC Plus more. I noticed something. In January, February, Abu Dhabi was attacked by Houthis. If you remember, was drawn and it was our second seminar, right? So, what was the thing now? They are attacked by Houthis. So the first thing UAE, Saudi Arabia started to do is you call two countries through the channels. USA and France. USA made a big mistake. They reacted very late to activate the defense agreement. France, they did it like this. Let me tell you, maybe, I think it was asked on Friday. At Friday it was, and it was approved on Saturday. Something like that, as if it was ready. I think, I'm sure about Friday. Approval, I think 1-2 days later, in weekend. Approved, right? So, by the way, Minister of Defense of France, he was on visit in our region, especially UAE. They need even to exploit that and enhance more. That came finally. Okay. OPEC Plus. Why Saudi Arabia is more condemned by USA? Because they are the more controlling country. I love UAE, to be honest, but I give them a name. It's recorded, no problems, which is octopus acting from behind. Why octopus? I give all countries names, even my lovely country. Why octopus? Because it's small body, 8 hands from octarite, and they are very flexible. They can move and withdraw very quickly. And they act from behind. Usually they are not in the show somehow. They don't declare. It's very difficult to your embassies in UAE to know what's going on actually. Very difficult. So Saudi Arabia was condemned more in OPEC Plus, and they continued, but they have their diplomatic statements, as you know, on how to use it. And for sure, defense market of Russia. I don't think it's increased or became the same. I think it's decreased for both countries. For several reasons, not only reputation, but what I noticed with these countries, they are rich, yes, but they know how to use their money well now, not like before. Not like before. They know how to use their money now for the benefit. Qatar, they signed, as we said, and they said it's the best time, but must be long term. Why Europe does not want long term, as I learned from European colleagues, if they are right, that because don't tell me you will change after that, okay? Because it has to be long term, like 15 years, which Germany is a very good idea. Okay, Egypt, I talked a lot about Egypt. In Dabha, it became faster, and Korea participated. Maybe my colleagues or my friends know more than me from the embassy. So Korea even participated in Dabha somehow, as competing Russia, as venture prepared before, I don't know really. Egypt supported the United Nations resolutions. I noticed with Egypt, I'm not talking like my good friends as diplomats, but I talk according to my analysis. I noticed with Egypt as a country, or even as President Sisi, as I know him a long time before, since he was major, I was lieutenant, I served under his command in the brigade. He is not indecisive, but he doesn't like to do any action to lose on the long term, especially if you have only one partner to be my enemy or to be my friend. It's not accepted, because we learned it from October War, from the Russian. Keep relations with everybody as possible as you can without destroying your partnerships, your interests. So I think the value is like that, but not to have conflict with the interest. That's why I support the United Nations mission. And something happened, by the way. I remember Russia asked, Lavrov asked for what? That to make another, like voting in Security Council, I think, or no, General Assembly, but to be secret. And Egypt accepted, and it was attacked. I think a big difference to accept and to be in secret, because we believe, I think, that to be in secret, to be announced, it's okay. We have the same, our own, because USA will know, Europe will know. Maybe media will not know, but everybody of the countries participating, they will know. I think so, this came to my mind. And Europe started to come to Egypt now, faster than before. I believe, if I'm not wrong, maybe I'm wrong, it's something against Egypt, that European Union did not like to sign with us the gas before, because they were not very sure about the plan. It will be really firm to give Europe, because Egypt was user of gas and and source of gas also. Now we became four: user of gas, source of gas, and fabricating gas with LNG, and exporting gas. So these four phases, it's very complicated, and remember, it's not only our gas. We should receive gas from Israel, from Cyprus, from Greece, and then give to Europe. So I think European Union was not very sure, and that's why I think they sign now, just send the gas in any time when you are able. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. And they start to support the food security much. Because Gulf countries, they have their alternatives. I know how. Usually they do what, by the way, in food security. In the normal life, like before COVID-19, they care about quality of food they import. But during COVID-19 and now, they care about quantity more. That's why Egypt was lucky more. We have good quality sometimes also, yes, in different vegetables, food, and so, and we have quantity. So we were Europe was closed in COVID, so we could give a replacing alternative to Europe. So, but now they try to support in this issue because of the wheat. We depend on wheat. Because I think it has been noticed that poor countries, or even moderate countries, they depend more, the people, on wheat. They depend more on food. We spend most of our money in food, right? You will see something in our food today, the dessert. We have 4 types of dessert. Everyone has its own occasion. We love food. Yeah, Russia is one of the important markets to us. Why? One of the good things, really, I liked even during my service, that we kept on Russian weapons, Russian APCs, Russian tanks, and sometimes we take from Czech before, the previous Soviet Union countries, or from Russian even. So, because we don't want to depend, as I told you, which we learned from October, we don't want to depend on one source. That's why even we take from France and so on. And now, thanks to God, we start to industrialize. We start. Okay. That's why one of my assistants, he is here now, but he's preparing outside. He told me, General, I think that the Russian market will lose its position more in the future. Why? There is for sure American pressure, for sure. You know, I gave you my weapons, but don't take much from Russia. But not only that, trust also, in terms of trust. But we maintain, we will keep taking from them. I think so. I think so. But not like before. US start to rely more in Egypt. You remember when I told you the two jaws of to bite, Turkey and so they start, yeah, because one of the 5 goals of the United States of America in our region is to protect the maritime routes in our region. And Egypt is is the only country overlooking the two, which is Red Sea and Mediterranean, and that's why. And by the way, Bab el-Mandab strategically is under our responsibility, military strategically, geomilitarily. So it's very important. East Mediterranean, it became our responsibility more, somehow. That's why I think not only support of USA with weapon markets and so, but it will be European also support. I think so to Egypt. Syria. Oh, Syria is a big issue actually. But anyway, now Russia is not that much concentrating in Syria. Logic. Not like before, right? Why? If you notice, if you are aware about that, when they start to replace forces for more deployment before mobilization, he doesn't want mobilization. For some reason, he postponed it. He was taken from where? Some of them from Georgia, some of them from around like Kazakhstan when he deployed before, and some of them from Syria as well. So now Bashar al-Assad, I'm sure, he is aware about that. And even his influence as Syria and the Russian, in the Syrian crisis became less because it's based on the Russian influence. So I think Syrian crisis, which is in my book, I talked about it, Libyan crisis, Iraq crisis, Iran crisis, Yemen crisis. So Syrian crisis, I think it will be affected somehow negatively in the coming. It will be exploited more. محمد ممكن؟ ده هو بيسجل من ساعتها بس كان مقفول استاذنك. كمل. And this will be against Iran, for sure.